Patrons. There you go. So the residents of the monastery originate from across many regions and kingdoms of the world of Wraith, unified only by their voracious appetite for arcane knowledge. Biomancers, arcanists, wizards, conjurers, summoners, witches, necromancers, alchemists, and mechanologists number among those who reside within the mansion, each with their own agenda and field of study. So are we one day going to see a shadow mechanologist?
One more time, Joe Migo. Got LuiMarz back in the building with some crazy theories. You know how we do here. We like to speculate. We like to bring different ideas to the community, to the game. I'm not the super specialist on that.
I've been working hard in the library.
But my guy over here, man, I just want to say I appreciate you doing the homework. I've definitely been slacking in that department, so just having the support and the other half to this crazy channel we trying to start, like, definitely appreciate that.
Well, I do got some stuff for you, but first of all, let's just go and say it. We called something else right. What did I say during our last talk? What did I ask you? Are we going to get ourselves a shadow mechanologist?
Shadow mech, man.
Not too long after.
Shadow mech.
Here we are. I'm disappointed that he doesn't have like black armor, because that would make him look even more menacing. But still, he definitely looks scary.
Yeah, now I think about that, black would have been pretty badass. But hey, we 2 for 2. We did hit the max one, and now we hitting the shadow mech. So I think we on a good roll, man.
But now let's get into where we damn fucked up. Just because every one of us read the lore yet. Remember, like, first of all, Dash's mother has been identified since the beginning. So let me get that out of the way. Thero, I believe, is her name. And yeah, she's appeared in a couple of the stories. I'm all caught up on the stories for Dash. And the current one's out, including a new one that was published as of today called Protocol. What was it called? Protocol. That's not my mouse. Aperion, which has some weird kind of scribbles. If you go over there, you can see it over at the lore side. Yeah, you see how it's all got some crazy text on there?
Yeah.
So it's hard to read, but the story's called. That's the newest one that was dropped as of today, this morning, where I read. So I'm all caught up on that. Nice. So here's the big thing that we messed up. Tech Levant, and I think a lot of people even know, because I feel like I wasn't the first one who said it. I feel like a couple of other streamers have said this, assumed that Tekla Boston was Dash's father because her last name's Tekla. It turns out Tekla Boston isn't even blood related to Dash at all.
Yeah. First mess up, but hey, we learn it.
Hey, so there's a little bit of spoiler for those who haven't read the lore. I suggest you check out the stories. I mean, I guess we should start out with this is a spoiler. Just get a spoiler warning right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was a big one. But these new stories explain why. And going back to the old stories, I even thought about when reading the old stories. They never specifically stated it as a knowledge. They just said that her parents were the top 2 scientists at Teklo Industries. And think about the way they just kept saying the top of the scientists. First of all, Tekla Boston wasn't a top scientist. He was the founder. That's why it's named after him. And they did name his mother blatantly as Thero, but never identified as her father. So and now we know why. And also we know why her name is Teklo and not Tekla Boston. That's explained in one of the newer stories. Mm-hmm. So I suggest everyone check that out. Like I said, there's going to be a bit of spoilers here, but if you really want to get into it, check the lore out. It's very fascinating.
Yeah, I feel like you're taking shots at me right now because I'm...
I mean, not just you. Me too.
I know. But just even us, talking about it and chopping it up, like, it definitely... I feel like it adds value to the game because it's not just cards and we're not just out here just doing stuff with them. Like, there's a whole story behind it, so it kind of just brings the whole game to life. And me being a huge Mech fan, like, it makes me appreciate, just the characters and the moves and the attacks, and it definitely makes me understand more or less, like, okay, I understand why these cards do what they do. It's not just, hey, we just came up with a bunch of ideas and made a game. Like, nah, there's an actual story to this. So, at least from Legend Studios, I definitely appreciate them, taking their time and putting the stories out there. And my bad for not reading them.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of us like that who didn't read the lore. I mean, even with the game itself, playing it, you can get that level of immersion with the visuals, with the flavor text of the cards, get yourself in the story that way. But the lore, when you read the lore, that just adds another layer of immersion.
Yeah,
you can appreciate.
Definitely.
But one of the things I wanted to get into with the news stories, it does establish the relationship between Dash and Max, how they know each other, and why there's animosity between them at the moment as of, the current published story.
Oh, snap.
And also, yeah, so they've known each other for a while now, and then they had a falling out recently. And, like I said, we're at this point we were again the spoilers, but something for you to get excited about. One of the main components in that rift between them has to do with Data Doll. Data Doll makes an appearance in one of these short stories that just came out. So, and we also know a little bit about her creation from Dynamic Man. You get a little bit of where she came from. Now, granted, she could still be, like we theorized, the consciousness of another person, but it's pretty much implicated that it's an artificial intelligence that Tekla created himself.
Gotcha.
And, it was his crowning achievement before he supposedly passed away 50 years ago. That's the other thing that happened. This happened over 50 years ago when he created Data Doll. And he's been gone ever since. Everyone is presumably dead. But guess what? Click over on News Story Protocol. Here's the thing I wanted to get into.
Oh, this one. I can't even read that bit.
So here we are with his trusted bot Rigo, which comes up earlier in Dynamic Man. In this underground chamber that apparently no one knows about. So remember how we theorized how Tekla might find a way to cheat death?
Yeah.
We were right about that, because he's been dead for 50 years. He supposedly died in an explosion, but that's the thing. Just presume that he died in an explosion, mysterious, and no one knows what caused the explosion.
See, man,
but
everybody knows that if you die in an explosion and nobody finds your body, it's sketchy, right?
Right.
It usually means you survived it.
So he's been chilling for 50 years somewhere, and here he is. He comes out of a pod, and there he is. Back. Now, here's the thing about it. He looks fairly young in that drawing, doesn't
he? Yeah, he still got, dyed hair, brown mustache.
He was very old, decrepit by the time he supposedly died. So that's the one thing. Like, unless we're misleading on what his age is supposed to look like, I'm thinking he still found a way to cheat death. Like, how did this happen? Did he put his body in some kind of stasis that restored his youth? Is that a cloned body?
He done jumped into this capsule and then let the robots blow up the whole facility, and then he done hopped up out of this at a younger age, or I guess he is a clone. But you know what they say about clones: when you come back, you don't come back the same.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing about it. You have they mention how when everyone has this image of this gentle man who just wanted to help make people, more. What was that catchphrase? Oh, it's in there somewhere. More than human. That's what he promised. That definitely does not look like the image of a kind, humble man he's been portrayed up to this point.
Yeah, he definitely put on some muscle, that's for sure.
So, there's a little mystery. I'm like, is this legit Tekla-Valsen, or is this Tekla-Valsen come back wrong, or was this Tekla-Valsen the real Tekla-Valsen all along, and that whole kind, gentle soul was an act? Who knows?
Well, I mean, you gotta ask yourself, if Max never liked Tekla-Valsen to begin with, was that during?
Well, he never met him personally because he's been gone for 50 years. He never knew who he was.
Okay.
He just hated the whole. He's an anarchist who hates the whole system.
Okay. So, do you think this new form that we've been presented with is something that Max knew about after the 50 years, or this is like I always hated Tekla-Valsen and the industry that he created, and now this new evil form came out, and he's like, I told you.
Yeah, this is pretty much going to be him. Like, he actually has that moment in one of the stories where Dash finds out something about Tekla Industries.
Yeah.
And she goes, like, tells him about it, and he's like, see, I knew it.
Now I need my wrench, and I'm going to start smacking shit.
It's like Max is like your like your usual anarchist protagonist in
Cyberpunk. I think Max got a
little
ghetto gamer in him.
He's a little screw loose, but he ain't completely wrong. He's not far off.
Yeah, I can relate, man. I definitely can relate.
But yeah, reading the dynamic of the four, because they mentioned Dad Doll. Gang will know about the dynamics. Really been interesting. So we'll see what comes out, and definitely all these cards are presenting that. Oh, another thing that comes up you'll appreciate in stories, the induction chamber came up in the short story.
Oh,
that's Dash's own invention.
I mean, she is inventor extraordinaire.
She is. She comes up with some crazy stuff. The ornament she wears, it's called dress. I don't know it's an acronym for something. You never know what it is, but one of the earlier short stories is how she built it and then used it to help out one of her friends. That's another thing interesting. So there's a character introduced in Dash's early lore called Ricky Royce, who seems to be like a childhood friend of hers. Ricky Royce is actually a childhood friend of Max. Ricky Royce and Max busted out of the same orphanage. And that's how Dash met Ricky's through Max. But then Max went off and did his own thing for a while, then came back like years later, and that's where we're at right now, right to the point where they reconnected after a while. No mention to Ricky Royce. I don't know what happened to him. And then they have the story involving Dad Doll, and then the falling out. And now you have pretty much these. You have one side Dash and Dad Doll, another side Max, and then a third side Tekla-Valsen. Who's going to come out on top?
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. That's crazy interesting. I like how they all put it together, and even like the origins of all these characters lead up to more or less like the personalities that they have. Like, I mean, dude, if you're an orphan, you're gonna see a lot of stuff and probably grow up with some issues.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Max is wild. Max is wild, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So you got anything else for the lore that you was able to pull out?
In terms of, I was focusing mostly on the catching up on the mechanologist lore, just to you didn't reading up on history. You do know that the big company at the time, and still is the biggest company, is Cogworks. They're the ones who are the big players in terms of steam technology, and which is still being used. Okay. But Tekla-Valsen came up with Teklatic Dynamic. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but it's a type of system that outputs more energy, but he still has steam as a backup source for a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But it's his dynamic. Oh shit! You know what? Let me just look it up. Either way, it's his invention. The power source that leads to the jump in technological advancements, because you saw the early stuff was all steampunk.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now we're having computers and visual screens and stuff. A lot of that had to do with Tekla Industries.
So let me ask you then. This big company was even around during the life of Tech Lebowski.
Which one? Cogworks.
Yeah.
Cogworks is like the old one. It's pretty much like the GE of their world.
Oh, okay. So would you say after he died, it was just like a drastic decline in just metrics overall? And
No, not well in terms of technology. No, because he left a lot of after he created Data Doll. Data Doll ended up being sent to the Iron Hall and kept producing all the stuff, all the mech parts and everything that we're seeing right now. So the technology ramped up. Now, in terms of society, well, obviously that didn't work out as he had hoped. Imagine right before he supposedly disappeared or supposedly died, he had this vision of a utopia. Mm-hmm. And when he wakes up 50 years later, he's slightly disappointed on the outcome. He laments that it should have been a lot farther.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I would hate to put the two and two together and call this version of Tech Ultron, but for people that watch the movie,
it is very Ultron.
Yeah, for people that watch the movie, you know when Ultron got all this information and understood the history, that's ultimately what turned him bad, so to say, and gave him a goal of, I'm just gonna run the world and make it what I want to be, so it's perfect, because y'all have not been doing it.
And pretty much Tech Lebowski's, he's pretty much getting that mentality. Like he was expecting him to be far along, and now he's woken up, and he's like, "Well, you gotta do something right.
Yeah,
you gotta do it yourself."
I wonder if there was a purpose behind just the 50 years of his death. Like if he knew, hey, I'm getting old, but I know that I need to pretty much just try to find a way to restart my body or my soul or whatever's inside this new version. If he just was able to time all of that perfectly and decided like, okay, this is the right time to come back.
It could be that he just figured 50 years was enough, or it could be that's just how long it took the process was to, restore his youth and bring him back.
Right.
Granted, though, when he wakes up, he's not perfectly healthy. Like he's still, but that could be just because his body's been in stasis so long that it's just, like when you wake up in the Matrix type of thing, you haven't used your body for so long. Even Lament says eyes, he hasn't used them for 50 years. He can barely open them. So that's why he has all of his mech parts ready to help him. But if we are to take this illustration, he definitely doesn't look as old as he was when he died, especially in that, what was it, the one card you referenced, where he's definitely old and about to...
Yeah, my favorite, blessing of ingenuity.
Ingenuity, good job.
No doubt. So tell me, why is Dash and Max beefing?
Well, so Max has been running into some problems, and he has this paranoid theory that somehow the Iron Assembly is knowing his moves. All the enforcers are all knowing his moves before he even makes them. Dash decides to look into it because Dash, even though she's a bit of a wild child, clearly she likes hanging out with roughhouses, but her esteem, her reputation is that of a techlo and a promising scientist. Her mother's constantly berating her because expecting great things of her, because clearly Dash is brilliant, but she doesn't like the stuffy laboratories. She doesn't like spending, days reviewing all, other people's projects where there's nothing more than boring appliances or, like all these, it's just not what she wants to do. She wants more creativity. The only thing that seems of interest to her is supposedly a mech suit that compacts into the size of a suitcase, which she does use that at a certain point. That's a good idea. She definitely utilizes, and so she looks into it using her connections, finds out that there is something about this, and they go to find the source of it. And she manages to get to the source of it first, while Max is working on his end, trying to break into the place. She gets there first, and the source of all the information is Data Doll. Finds Data Doll and finds her intrigued because look at this, this robot who's processing all this information, who knows a bit about her because she's processed information all throughout Metrix. So knows who Dash is and has a conversation with Dash, and they talk back and forth, and Dash is very intrigued by that doll. Of course, when Max shows up, all he can think of is, see, I knew it, that's the thing, let's smash it.
And she's like, no, hold on.
Yeah, Dash is like, well, hold on, let's give this a chance. And then talking to Dad Doll, asking, like, he seems to think you want to get smashed, And then Dad Doll, being a computer, is like, well, assembling his information is the most logical conclusion to destroy me. And Dash is like, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And giving her the question, like, what you're doing, helping Techno Industries, mess with everyone's data and using it. Wow, kind of like our world.
Yeah.
Asking Dad Doll, do you think it's right? And Dad Doll's like, well, I'm doing what I'm following orders. I obey. And then Dash's like, no. Do you think it's right? Is this what you want to do? And after processing all this information, Dad Doll comes to the conclusion, no. And so Dash helps Dad Doll escape. Max is kind of pissed about it. He ends up him and his boys end up getting knocked out in the fight. Dash takes them all out, escapes with Dad Doll. And the next thing we hear about Max, and then one of the next stories, is that he's in jail, obviously because he got caught. So that's why they're beefing. He thinks that pretty much Dash sold him out. And all Dash was trying to do was help save an innocent person. It's clearly Dad Doll didn't want to do this. Dad Doll didn't choose this life.
Yeah.
He was forced into this life.
Right, but then when she was given ultimately a choice to decide, she realized, yeah, this is kind of messed up.
Yep.
Well, folks, you don't bring a wrench to a gunfight because you're going to lose. Told you, should have got a rocket launcher.
I mean, it's an electric-powered wrench, but fortunately, Dash's dress and Dash's gun were just better.
Yeah. Dang, that's wild. I like that. A lot.
Like I said, pretty much that's the whole story there, but I still encourage people to read the story for yourself, get all the details, appreciate the artwork. We saw that there's some good illustrations in there.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely go back to her past stories, read up on her adventures with Ricky Royce and how she tends to blow up a couple laughs. It's amazing how it's amazing how much her namesake as a Teklo saves her.
Mm-hmm.
But so we kind of forgot to go over it, but the reason her last name is Teklo is because the tradition ever since the departure of their beloved founder was to name every CEO Teklo. Not, leaving the Boston for the founder. So she's a descendant of a CEO. Got
it. See, and that's what made us think they was related, because it's like, y'all got the same last name.
And remember, one of the cards we read, there was a quote from a Cynthia Teklo.
Yeah.
Speculating who that was. Obviously not related to Dash, because Teklo is just a name a CEO gets. Mm-hmm. Cynthia is the current CEO of Teklo.
Boom. What's going on, y'all? Ghetto Gamer here. We had to cut the video short, started having some technical difficulties, just some audio issues that we got to figure out. At least I'm glad that we was able to get through, all of the lore for mechanologists. Want to shout out LuiMarz for doing the homework on that and putting out some good stories, something he's definitely good at. I hope y'all was able to take something away from it, that there was something in there you probably didn't know, or if you did read it, you was like, oh snap, man, missed that part. So, that's definitely what we try to do here. We try to push the envelope on the ideas and come up with either some crazy ideas or try to see things from a different angle. So I hope that we can continue to push that envelope and just keep on hitting, because, boy, we kind of be right sometimes. So I appreciate y'all going ahead and like, subscribe, spread the word, throw a comment, whatever y'all want to do. Greatly appreciate it, man. And I hope to see y'all on the next one, man. Ghetto Gamer, I'm out. One more time, Dromigo.